Chapter 9 is the Jews, are they as evil as people say? This is from the first book of Christ for Atheists and is available on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, or you can buy it on in Amazon for $20. The Jews, are they as evil as people say? As a baby, my mother's doctor insisted that I be circumcised. As a suspicious adult, I suspected that it wasn't for religious or hygiene purposes that the doctor would insist that I be circumcised. I suspected that after all the anti-Semitism and hatred aimed at the Jewish people, that our Jewish doctor was wanting to neutralize the male population, so that if all males were circumcised, the future fascists wouldn't be able to differentiate between who was Jewish and who was not. My father was not happy and said, "I didn't get a son, I got a Jew." My mother shared this with me when I was a teenager. I can't figure out why. I wish I didn't know. It is interesting to realize that anti-Semitism was prevalent in my parents' generation as the influence from the fascist Germany trickled into North America. A shipload of German Jews was turned back from the USA in the late 1930s as they tried to escape the anticipated extermination of their people. Henry Ford, Charles Lindbergh, and other prominent Americans called out the Jews as Zionists, trying to take over the world. I worked with a big, strong, square-jawed German at the telephone company. I was a student working with a bunch of guys close to retirement as we were running telephone lines through sewers and drilling under roads to provide phone service in unserviced areas. Herman the German's job was to drill a hole under the road, which he could do by eye and never miss getting to the other side by very much, to the opening. When he got comfortable with me, he said, "You notice who runs all the filth and immoral activity in Hollywood?" I said I didn't know. He said, "It's the Jews. I know that there are a lot of Jews in Hollywood, but I would suspect that it is positions of power and influence that fuels exploitation." Certainly the Boy Scouts can vouch for that, or the Catholic Church for that matter. Back when I spoke to my first anti-Semitic German, I was under 20, and one of my favorite comedians was Bill Cosby. I just bought his album, Why Is There Air, and decided to call him and ask him the question, is all the filth and licentious behavior in Hollywood because of the Jews? He said yes. Living in Winnipeg, I called Peter Nygaard, who ran a very successful fashion business around the world and was well respected. Being surrounded by beautiful models, I said, "Peter, is it true that all the filth and sexual misconduct in Hollywood is because of the Jews?" He said yes. I was thinking that it depended on who you asked in order to get the answers I was given. Certainly two well-respected and successful people that I admired in the 60s could be trusted to provide an honest answer, couldn't they? Back at the lake, you could hear the Stearns next door talking in the kitchen, and Mrs. Stearns said, "Why can't we go to Miami?" My dad said, "They don't drink liquor, you know, next door, but that's a typical Jewish wine." His view of the Jewish people wasn't malicious, but a prejudice did exist. My mother told me that when my grandfather opened his plumbing business in Winnipeg, the Polish community wouldn't give him a chance, but the Jewish people did, and he and our family were forever grateful. We've come a long way with tolerance, and I would say as our country becomes more diverse, the young people are becoming more accepting of others. When I was a kid, the racial jokes were mainly about Africans, Jews, and DPs, that's displaced persons or bohunks. These were people from Eastern Europe who were here because of the war. I've been here for 1 month and already some DP is trying to take my job. This would be the kind of joke that went around when I was a kid. I was an adult with children before this kind of slander slowed down and became less acceptable. Years later, when I was retired, my cousin Bridget, on a quest to make the world a better place, suggested that all men should have a vasectomy as babies instead of circumcision. In my book summary, AI reported that all people would be circumcised. Wrong, only men. This mandatory procedure could be reversed once the grown man has proven capable of being a good father and husband. I thought it would be a good idea now to get it by the Human Rights Tribunal. There's the rub. I think you have my point of view on the Jewish people. If you don't, you're a milk thistle. I am sure moving forward, our society can find another group to use as scapegoats when things don't go well. How about the Mexicans?